Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
More than 300,000 babies under the age of 1 are living below the poverty line, according to analysis carried out for the BBC by the Joseph Rowntree Foundation. Relative poverty is defined by the organisation as living substantially below the average income. For a single-parent family with 1 child, that amounts to £198 per week after housing costs. For a family of 2 parents with 2 children, it's £360 per week. The government says there are now 1 million fewer people living in absolute poverty since 2010. Danny Savage has been to Castleford to meet one working mother.
Morning, Charlie. Ready?
The start of another day for Vicky Miller and her son Charlie in their rented home in Castleford.
We get ready for nursery, aren't we?
Another day worrying about money.
We get some milk. You want to come up?
Things were so desperate a few months ago, she was referred to a baby bank.
You'll get the toiletries and nappies.
It supplies everything for a newborn that a growing number of people can't afford.
A little bit of help with baby stuff.
And it's just received another message asking for help.
2 children and just been offered a house.
So they might ring us up and say, I don't get paid well Friday, but we've run out of nappies or milk, or they just need topping up on clothes. You know, when winter came, we had a lot of referrals from mums who wanted just winter coats and things like that.
Although Vicky works 2 days a week, it's not enough for some of the basics. When she was on maternity leave, things were even tighter.
Even recovering from a C-section, nothing unusual for me to walk 6 miles a day. It's like into town, around town, to look at the prices on the market, look at the price on the supermarket, and then have to go back to one because I could save 25p on a bag of potatoes on the market.
Vicky now has to make her food budget of £20 a week go as far as possible.
Call it £5 for cash.
Oh, grand.
Thank you very much.
Thank you ever so much.
Have you ever had a week when you've literally run out of cash when there's 2 or 3 days to go?
Yeah. It's like not long after I took my house over, I went 2 weeks with just living on baked beans. He wasn't feeding, he was breastfed at the time, so of course that wasn't good, I wasn't getting enough nutrients in. So I had to turn to food banks.
What sort of things do you have to send home to people?
Nappies, wipes.
And at Charlie's nursery, the daily struggle of working families is a familiar story to owner Jodie.
So they're coming on in the morning, they're absolutely starving. So we're providing breakfast when realistically they should be fed at home. Before they come, fair enough, them that's coming at 7:30, that's the breakfast club, they're coming in for that. But there's children that come in here at 9 o'clock and they're starving.
Quite a lot for you.
At the baby bank, more donations are being dropped off. Researchers say 300,000 children in the UK under the age of 1 are living in relative poverty. This is clearly needed. Danny Savage, BBC News, West Yorkshire.
And you can see more on Inside Out tonight on BBC One in Yorkshire and Lincolnshire. That's at 7:30 this evening and everywhere else on the BBC iPlayer. The government has admitted that a rise in the use of food banks is linked to the switch to universal credit, which replaces 6 individual benefits. The Work and Pensions Secretary, Amber Rudd, said it was absolutely clear there had been issues with the rollout that had left some welfare claimants unable to access money. Well, for more, let's talk to our home editor, Mark Easton. It's quite an admission, this, isn't it? A direct link.
Well, ministers have been understandably reluctant to confirm that the rollout of their flagship welfare reform, universal credit, has led to a significant rise in people needing emergency food aid. But the evidence has been growing. Figures from the Trussell Trust, which runs 38 food banks around the UK, and evidence from the National Audit Commission both suggest that changes and delays, particularly to universal credit and other benefits, are linked to more people seeking emergency supplies. Now, as you say, Amber Rudd has confirmed the link. She told Parliament that there were challenges with the initial rollout, and the main issue that led to an increase in food bank use could have been the fact that people had difficulty accessing their money early enough. And Amber Rudd she's really struck a more sympathetic tone since arriving at the DWP, accepting the shortcomings of the system, slowing the rollout, changing some of the implementation, and expressing determination to win public support for universal credit. No support this evening from the Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn, who has tweeted, "Why has the rollout not been stopped?" The government insists the rollout will continue, the reform is a good one, and implementation will happen by by the end of 2023 as planned.
Thank you.
Now, it's the government's flagship welfare reform, beset by delays and criticism from the beginning, with charities and campaign groups repeatedly warning it was causing significant hardship for many. Now, today, the government acknowledged that the introduction of the benefit could have contributed to rising use of food banks. Work and Pensions Secretary Amber Rudd told MPs there had been challenges with the initial rollout.
It is absolutely clear that there were challenges with the initial rollout of universal credit, and the main issue that led to an increase in food bank use could have been the fact that people had difficulty accessing their money early enough.
Well, our health and social care correspondent Victoria McDonald is here. Interesting, isn't it?
This is a significant moment. Just let me tell you what she went on to say after that. "I have acknowledged," she said, "the fact that people had difficulty accessing the money on time as one of the causes for the growth in food banks." Now, charities, MPs from all sides of the House have been saying for a long time that there was a link between the real growth in people attending food banks and this rollout of universal credit, caused sometimes often by a delay in the money getting to often families. You've seen it yourself when you've been out filming, that there are people who are working receiving this credit who are not getting the basics, mothers not getting nappies. The Trussell Trust research had shown that universal credit claimants were 4 times more likely to use food banks in areas where the full system had been rolled out, and yet the government refused to investigate this and repeatedly denied it.
So what has been the reaction to Amber Rudd's statement today?
Well, she has been praised in some degrees for this increasingly conciliatory approach towards this. The Trussell Trust said it's promising, that she's listening. Labour has called the admission astonishing, have said universal credit programme should be halted, and the Lib Dems say it's far too late for the tens of thousands of people forced to rely on food banks.
Victoria, thanks very much.
Thanks, Jackie.